Welcome to the Blackburn End Podcast. Only the one game to discuss this week, but there has been movement in the transfer window, which is good news. I'll be honest, recording these podcasts are getting a little bit more difficult, not because Rovers are not exactly lighting up our lives, I should say, but the civil war between fans. Everyone seems to be waiting to give an "I told you so" or "you're wrong." Our egos can take being wrong. In fact, when we say something negative, we've said before, we want to be wrong. But if social media is anything to go by, there is a civil war brewing. And to be honest, it needs to stop. People should just be allowed to support however they want to support. And whilst I promote a debate, some people are just so passionate that they're not even willing to do that. And they're dealing with absolutes, and it's bordering on stubbornness, which is causing online feuds. Not necessarily with us, it's ones that we're seeing elsewhere as well. But ultimately, no one's right, no one's wrong. We just don't know. And we personally reserve the right to change our opinions here on the show because we're willing to debate. We do it amongst ourselves. We do it with the listeners. We have online therapy sessions, and it gives us that different perspective after talking it out. So sometimes we are high, sometimes we are low. If you can't accept that, then I'm afraid we're probably not the show for you. And we thank you for your time. And obviously, thank you for the support. But that being said, on with the show. So Rovers bow out of the FA Cup as a patched-up team takes on Hull, and we take them all the way to penalties. But sadly, doesn't quite go the way we wanted it to. The fans do get to see some young players, but which one's impressed? Ismail says he wants players through the door, and as Cashin is the first to come in, Gueye is the one set to leave. It's Ipswich away on Saturday as a lunchtime kickoff awaits, and Edmondson does as proud as he single-handedly beats Crystal Palace on his own in one of the biggest ever FA Cup upsets. Okay, that one might not be quite as correct, but the Loney did play a very capable 90 minutes against the Holders as they won 2-1. But obviously, I'm not here on my own. Mark, how are you?
I'm all right, mate. I think I'm a bit calmer than last week. I wasn't necessarily last night, I suppose. I think we got described as a heel turn last week, but it's an American term. We need to get rid of American terms. But yes, I am. I think I'll be a bit more measured today. Yeah, but absolutely what you've just said there. And one thing that I really picked up on, I completely agree with. We want to be wrong. When we're slating people, when we're saying this person's not good enough, they're not ready, doing this wrong, please prove me wrong. Please go and win every game. Please.
That's the thing. I want the owners to be successful. I want the current manager to be successful. If they're successful, we're happy and we're all enjoying being Rovers fans. I mean, we're here. We've got our new Rovers shirts. Mine's just hung up behind me and we're all excited about that. But it seems like there's just not a hell of a lot to be excited about. And it's difficult when you do these things. We said that we're classed as content creators, podcasters, whatever it is. As far as we're concerned, we want to talk about the positives all the time. Talking about the negatives, it's really soul destroying. And when we're going back watching games and trying to trawl through court cases and transfers and where money's going, it's absolutely painful. We don't want to talk about it. We want to talk about the football. The game this weekend, it's not exactly lit any fires, has it? But we want to concentrate on it. So let's start on that one anyway. So little peek beyond the curtain again. We usually do a match reaction, but because we were too busy messaging each other and talking, we actually forgot to do an audio match reaction this week. So it came to today and I looked, I was like, oh, I don't have to edit this today. So yeah, absolute apologies on that one. We did forget to do it. So I'm going to start with you, Mark. So when it obviously goes to penalties and it finishes, what was your first gut feeling?
Well, as the penalties were coming up, I thought this could be on for a long evening because no one's going to score. I just thought, what a waste of a day for some, not for the young lads, but just for the team as a whole. It's 120 minutes we didn't need. And then I was frustrated. So I managed to collect myself. And I managed to write some elements of notes, and I come up with. I thought I'm going positives first. Then I came up with some negatives, obviously. But what I'm going to do first is a bit out of sync. I'm going to go back to what I saw in the game that really frustrated me, and I'm going to get this out of the way. So if you don't want to hear any negativity, skip along a few minutes because I'm just going to go and sort of a few people came back at us for last week, and that's great. I want that debate. I'm just going to go back and try and clarify a little bit of what I meant, and not going back to last week, but I'm clarifying it based on what I saw again. So, for starters, on Ismail, I've tried to hold off an opinion, and I probably haven't fully had one until, like I said last week. But he came in, we were 5th in the table, and his first interview he talked about next season. It's not a great start. He lost 5 out of 7. He talked about the next season and what he needs to do, and I was thinking, this feels a bit off. At the time, cast your mind back. I know it's hard to believe. We've just beaten West Brom. Makhtar Gueye is our most effective striker at the club. He got absolutely no tune out of him whatsoever. I've seen no player. Please come back at me, anyone. If obviously you might, but if anyone could tell me any different, please. But I cannot remember a single player that I think's got better under him. I think people have played well under him, but I don't think anyone's necessarily got better. We've seen more of Tort, you could argue, but come back at me if somebody thinks that they can tell me somebody. I haven't yet seen a clear way of playing this high press, this front foot stuff. I've seen us sit back and hope not to concede. I've seen no real identity other than that. I can't see and hang, and with 39 games in, a way of playing. Oh, that's what he's trying to do. Think back to Thomason. We could see the flaws in it, but we could see what he was doing. Eustace, I could see both. I can't really see it because it's not aligning with what he's telling us. He promised high press, high energy. It's anything but. It's a troll of how hard is it to get through games as a fan, let alone as Axel Henriksen. He's trying not to concede and kind of hope we score out of nothing. But then what I come back to is people saying, well, yeah, but look what he's been given. Okay, so I just want to take that point. Look what he's been given. Personally, and as fans, I think we're quite agreed that the quality of the squad is not as good as last season, albeit the club are telling us it is. But I just want to focus now on the things he's choosing them. And this is where I have an issue with him. He has said he needs to rotate to avoid injury. With a 24-man squad, 25 when Platt came back, and he's chose to overplay Tronstad, Gudjonsson, Litherland, Hedges, Montgomery, Forshaw, all leading to muscle injuries. And I'm already ignoring the fact that he brought Carter back too soon. Cogbo had a knock after international break and he still played him and then he's torn something. And I'll ignore the fact that Wharton, because he's got an impact injury. He said we had a better squad. He said that. I didn't ask him that. I didn't put those words in his mouth. And he said this week in the evening with Ismail that people went to, that he has the final say on choosing transfers. So that's the second thing he's chosen. 39 games, 4 home wins, 11 wins in total. Worst win percentage than all by Keane and Coyle. Pretty poor. The times I've seen us play well, I can remember Hull away this season, not the one just gone, the one in the league. I can't remember many others. Please tell me if I'm wrong. He said he needed players that fit his style last season, and that he kept getting injuries, so we're just going to battle along, and then we're going to redo the squad. And yet he has talked about transition elements, so you can forgive some people not quite settling. Spent the summer though coaching a way of playing. That's undeniable. He wanted more players in early, I get that, but he spent the summer. This is the way we're going to play, and we're going to recruit for that. Him and the recruitment team have then gone off and done that. Then he's turned around and said, Campbell's injured. We're not creating enough, so we need to find another way of doing it. Campbell comes back, and he's still choosing not to change the way he wanted to play originally, and yet we're creating 0. Now he's turning around and saying, well, we haven't got the players to play this way of playing. And he's refusing to change the formation. He's choosing not to do, despite, by his own admission, not having the players to do it and it not working. He refuses to use natural strikers, so Tyjon, yet he's put him on the bench. And then yesterday, he turned around and said, well, I was going to bring him on for extra time. So he is going to use him. So he's choosing not to use him earlier or from the start. He's chose not to play Makhtar Gueye, whatever you think of him. Yet he's playing players that are completely incapable of playing in that role. Instead of playing them, this is almost a Ruben Amorim conversation now then. So instead of what can I do to get the most out of the players I've got, he's hoping we get somebody in quickly he's talking about. And in the meantime, he plays a midfielder who we all know cannot play up front. I mean, he can't get into our team in midfield. And we've created a grand total of naff all against Middlesbrough. I can forgive that one. Sheffield Wednesday, though, Wrexham, Charlton, and then again against Hull. Absolutely nothing. I actually feel sorry and worry about what it's doing to Axel Henriksen. We've scored 2 goals in 5 games, and we've won 1 in 11 against 3 teams immediately around us. He's shown me very little of why he should stay, if you flip it. And then he comes out in his interview and says, we played brilliant, and Axel Henriksen's run 15 kilometres. And as I messaged you, Yakubu used to run 1 kilometre. I saw him playing in the Bowler League yesterday. I'd take him still over Henriksen. And that's not Axel Henriksen's fault, by the way.
No, I do feel sorry for him, to be fair.
Come back at me.
So I agree with everything you're saying. It's not uncommon for me to say that too. We tend to be on the same page of a lot of things when it comes to this. So the Ismail thing, I mean, we've for weeks and weeks and weeks now, we've been trying to make sense of certain decisions. We've said certain things, and now and again we just come away and we start to get a little bit more negative, and then something might happen, and we're like, oh, do you know what? We're seeing something, and yeah, people have come at us the last couple of weeks, and I'm absolutely okay with that. But I feel like the ones that are coming at us are the ones that don't necessarily listen either week on week and haven't seen us justify where we are now for where we were before. And they think that we're just these negative fans. And we're absolutely not. We're just seeing what we see, and we're obviously trying to articulate it and make sense of it. And I agree with everything you're saying. I feel sorry for Axel Henriksen. I really do. I think he's a young lad that's been given an opportunity, and we're not helping him. And that comes down to the coach has to manage.
But I was just saying, Henriksen, he is a young boy. So we need to protect him like we protect our youth players. He is a young boy adjusting to a new country, adjusting to a new league, and you're playing him and flogging him. How he's not broken down, I don't know. You're flogging him in a position he cannot play. That's not good.
I like Henriksen. I think he's going to be. I think there's some glimpses there. I think you've got the physical side. I don't think from a technical side he's near where he needs to be. He's the classic bring him in, use him as a squad player, try and get him out on loan. But because of the depth issues, we've had to use him, and that'll get onto something in a second with me. The one thing I haven't liked is the ownership from him. It always is an excuse. Yes. And what he doesn't seem to understand is, as fans, the media and everything, we can all see exactly what's happening when it comes to the owners. We know that the squad's been decimated. We know that these things are happening. But he's calling it out, and it's like he's making these excuses publicly. And I just feel like he doesn't have to do it that way. Yeah. We can see what's happening. All he has to do is come out and just say, well, we've just got to get back to the drawing board. We've got to do this. We've got to work hard as a coach. I've got to be better and take a little bit of ownership. They do it in American sports all the time, and everyone knows it's just spiel that's coming out in front of the media. Whatever you do behind closed doors, absolutely fine. But in public, I just want you to be a little bit more supportive. So when he came out this week and he was saying that we was amazing, I was like, okay, that's a little bit further along than what I wanted. I don't want you to come out and say it was amazing, but I'm going to defend him a little bit this week.
Yeah.
When I saw the starting lineup, it's basically what I wanted.
Yeah.
I would maybe not Miller. I probably would have maybe rested Miller, but other than him, I was relatively happy with near enough everyone. I mean, we'll get into the positives later on. I think we've got to finish off the negative side first. So I'll bounce back to you in a second. But when he said things about the squad improving, I think that was just a misaligned thing that he said. He shouldn't have said it the way he said it. I don't think he truly believed it. I think it was him trying to support his team. And now we're going back and we're saying to him, well, you've said it's improved, and now we're trying to get him to kind of eat his words a little bit. But we don't have to do. He didn't have to say that, and we're going to go back and we are going to call him out on it, because that's what we're going to point out. We're going to say, well, hang on, you said the squad's improved, and now you're saying it's not. So I understand that there's a lot of people saying the squad isn't there for him. Yeah, I know it is. But he's got certain decisions that he could make that just makes it look like he's trying, and sometimes it feels like he isn't. When I came into this game, and let's go back to the Hull game now. When I came into this game, I expected absolutely nothing out of this game. I thought we was going to lose 3-0 and was all just going to move on. I saw the starting lineup and I thought, you know what, it's just gonna finish with, us just not being battered, but it's going to be a canter for Hull, and that's going to be it. And I was pretty astounded that it was 0-0 at full time. There was a couple of chances we could have potentially gone on to win it. And then it goes into extra time, and I was pretty astounded we even took it to penalties. And I just think that just shows that, for me, the youth team that's come in and helped out, they have ability. But these players that have been there and doing well for us, they've been there all season.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've, we'll obviously talk about the game, and then after I'm going to come on to more of a, not necessarily just a balanced view, but I'm trying to look at it how Rovers are looking at this, how they're looking at the season so far in Ismail. And my gripes with Ismail they're not even the results necessarily. It's some things that we're doing and we're not changing, or it's things that are making errors. So in terms of the team, yes, we wanted to see young players. Henriksen was the outlier for me in the role he was in. And it's not even about, I'll talk about it a little bit more in a minute when I talk about how I think the club are looking at it. It's not so much around the fact that we went on to lose the game or the fact that we're losing games at the moment. It's the fact that there's some obvious things and he's not fixing them. And I'm not even saying that he could fix them with personnel. I'm just talking about tactical things that I think he needs to look at and try. And if he tries it and it doesn't work, I wouldn't say, oh my God, why has he done that? I would say, well, it wasn't working before. It's time to mix it up. And flogging Henriksen up front is one of them things. So I think if we look at the positives from yesterday, and there were a number. So Tote, for me, I don't know about you, Mike, but for me, he didn't need to do a great deal. But there was a point where he just came for a cross, and I thought, that's just...
he came quite far and just absolutely claimed it, didn't he?
He's our number one for me. So that was a positive. I thought came straight back in, looked like he'd not been away. Done for me. Cashin came in. I thought reads the game really, really well. I'd like to see him in a foot race in some ways. I'm not sure how pacey he is, but he reads the game that well. He gives himself a couple of yards head start anyway. Very calm in possession. I think he uses the ball really well. Good addition.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree on Cashin. I was a little bit worried when we got him, and Blues fans were sorry, Birmingham fans, I got called for calling them Blues. Birmingham fans were straight into messaging me saying, thank God you've got him. And I was like, he can't be that bad. And then I had people messaging me saying, no, he's actually pretty decent. And I thought he looked like a good signing. I was impressed. I mean, he's got some talent.
Yeah. No, I was pleased with him. I thought, considering he's not playing much football as well, you could see a little bit rusty, but I was happy with him. Hitchen and O'Riordan played very well to me, looked very comfortable, and a little bit like when I compared and talked about Pratt at Wrexham against Wiley Fox of Kiefer Moore. I thought they played really well against McBurney, particularly O'Riordan. He was up against him. There's only once he got past him and then learnt from it. He won every header. And Hitchinson, in the nicest possible way, I almost forgot he was playing. And that's his second start. So that's a compliment, by the way. I wasn't worried about him one jot. And I think what we've learned the last few weeks is I was really worried that the depth we had at the back. And I think we've kind of been forced to play the youth a bit. I think I'm seeing a group of young lads that are coming through, that are comfortable on the ball, are confident in themselves, are slotting into the team well. And I'm going to come on to that again, reasons why I think in a bit. But I think they're really, really positive things. Genuinely, I think there's some good young lads there, and it can't just be just down to them in the academy. I think Ismail has to take some praise here because they've settled in defensively very, very well, whoever it is. And that now is leading me to think, I'm not saying Hitchens played 2 games. Oh my God, don't worry, let's ship Carter out. But for me, Hayden Carter, if we were going to keep progressing defensively, had to establish himself as a mainstay. And I'm not as worried now moving forward about him. So I thought they were against McBurney. There's not many tougher championship tests to get. And I was really pleased with a pair of them. And then Montgomery, another one. I think I've said from pretty much day one when I've seen him in the 21s, number 6 is his position. I think you put him there and he's a decent player. Put him anywhere else, he's got lots to learn. But he clearly had a shoulder injury that's forced him off after, and it wasn't a new one after. He had it early on in the game. I think Ismail's talked about it being, he's seen them before. They're not a great injury. So it's not like he's just had a little bang on it. It's obviously something that could put him out for a period of time. And yet he's played through it. And it was his first start for a long time. So I think that's the positive. Number 6 position. I can see a future for him in the first team.
Yeah, I agree. I thought he had a very solid game, and again, I like the way that you said about Hitchen, with the fact that you just didn't really recognise that they were a young player, that they seemed to settle in.
No, he looked like he played there all season. And then Aidan Doherty, a real directness about him, a willingness to run at them. He looked pacey. I'll just stick to the positives. So yeah, I thought I've not been as impressed with him in the 21s as I was actually against Hull. I thought he showed a real.
But sometimes it can be different football, can't it? And it can just really. I mean, we've only seen him. He came on like the 70th minute. Yeah. You know, it's not like we saw a hell of a lot of him, but what we saw, we were both impressed with, which is really good. Yeah. And it kind of feeds into then the negative of saying, well, why have we been having Axel up front when you've had someone like this that we could have given a chance to? But before he came on, obviously we had Powell and Dlamini. Yeah. I thought both showed some really good moves. You can tell Dlamini has. I feel like he has a little bit of confidence about him.
Yeah,
or his movement and getting himself about. He seems to have a little bit. He seems to have quite a bit of confidence.
Yeah, I mean. He's more of a wide player. So I've kind of split this into the neutral zone for him and Powell. Powell's been a left back. He's played left wing back. He's done really well in the number 10 role for the 21s, but it's a new role for him. And they're not alone in this, but I just think the way that the team's set up at the moment, we were asking too much of them. So there was a point where Powell had a decent run. He was quite direct with it. And you could see around him, there was nobody. So you're almost... You'd need Lionel Messi in that position to have any chance of anything. Campbell wouldn't have done any better at that point, but it's not about a question of Powell's deficiencies. I just think the way we were set up again left those front players to need a bit of a miracle, really. And I felt a little bit sorry for them, but they both showed something. I don't think it was a slight on them at all. There's been pace in those attacking areas, and that's something we've been lacking, and a directness. And again, all three of them very comfortable on the ball, very comfortable taking the ball, wanting that. So whoever's coaching these players mentally, they're not cocky, they're not taking silly risks. They're just very comfortable in their own skin, and that speaks volumes for the first team players and the coaches, because they're obviously making them feel comfortable in that environment. So they are positives.
But that positives adds into the negative view of, why haven't we been doing this earlier? You know, these players have been available. And yes, okay, a lot of these young players, they take a little bit longer to develop. And, the season's, 6 months? Let's just call it easy figures, 6 months old. And, 6 months at their age is quite a lot of development, especially if they've had some games elsewhere. But we'll get onto the youth side. I know that we're dotting around. It's just we've got a lot of things that we want to talk about, and we're trying to keep it in a structure. I think we're struggling a little bit, but we're trying. So the positives of the team were the Tote as the experienced goalkeeper. I think we don't need any more information on that. He's number one. Yeah. The youth players that came in, I think they all did well. Let's talk about the ones that we have seen. So you've got Deneva, he played. I'm going to say he looked a little bit more confident. I'm not saying he played well. I'm not saying he played really well. He just looked a little bit more confident. And I don't know whether that was because the fact that he didn't have as much pressure on him maybe this time because of the game. But I don't know. He just seemed to play with a little bit more confidence. Did you notice anything with him?
I thought he held his position a bit better. I thought he was aware of his defensive duties a little bit more. I'm a bit worried about Dion Deneva. I think he's taking a lot of public flack for another young boy. At the moment, you'll not shift my mind from the fact that if anywhere, he's a left winger. He would fit a 4-2-3-1, and I'll come on to that in a minute. And I think we're asking him to do some stuff that he's not very comfortable with, and that's, my point would have been, Jake Batty's been playing a season at Accrington Stanley. Surely we need to know if he can do it, because we know what Deneva can do at the minute. Jake Batty's a left wing back by trade. Where is he? Yeah.
Well, it adds in that's all part of the conversation we had a few weeks ago, where we're saying that there's probably an arrogance and a stubbornness from the recruitment teams. Like, we've given you these players, you need to go play them. And they won't use they want to prove themselves right by playing the players that they've brought in, rather than thinking, well, hang on, there's obviously some talent there. Let's ease them in. Let's get them a loan, potentially. Same with Henriksen. I think we've seen everything we need to see of Henriksen right now to know that he's not going to be an asset this season, especially up front, but he's not going to be an asset for us this season other than for depth coming off the bench. And I mean, the cups are over now, so it's not going to be used in a cup run. So I'd put Axel and Deneva as two kind of players that they've got potential, but you've just got to use them sparingly and send them out on loan potentially. I agree on the Batty. I remember back in the Rovers chat days, we were talking about Jake Batty, and he needed his opportunity, and this would have been a classic opportunity for him. So yeah, it's a little bit frustrating on that front. But to be honest, when you've got Ribeiro and Pickering, it seems very strange that we are still trying to make Deneva work. On the other side, it was Miller. I am getting increasingly frustrated with Miller. I'm not even going to talk about the long throws anymore with him, but he's on the floor a lot, and he's meant to be a big, strong Aussie. I like my players to be strong. I don't want them flopping around on the floor there was one time where I think he was defending the other Miller, and he just touched him on the back, and I was like, mate, I know he got the free kick, but A, it's risky because the ref might not give it, and B, you look a bit of a knobhead, to be honest.
Yeah. So I remember Grant Hanley used to do it very well, and you often win a free kick as a defender. But Miller, it's something I've noticed increasingly over the weeks, hence why I put that bet on in the Wrexham game. Miller to be fouled. I don't think the fouls, but he throws himself to the floor all the time. My notes, I'll not read them word for word, but I did put always on his backside. And yeah, he's a backup for Ali Biosu. I think what we're doing by bringing in defenders and centre halves without publicly admitting it, I think they are now telling us they agree with us, and Miller is not a centre half, certainly not in a two, but he's a backup of a backup in a three-man centre half, and he's backup for Ali Biosu. I think he's poor on the ball. I love his attitude. I love his last-ditch defending, but he's very limited for me. And the drop into the floor every 2 minutes, pardon the pun, is a pain in the ass. It does my head in. And referees are getting bored of it. They get bored of it in games, so he's going to get a reputation soon, and it will then cost him because he does it in areas where you can't.
No, exactly. So that's near enough the full starting lineup that we've spoken about. A quick one on O'Riordan. I am worried about another yellow card. He seems to. I don't want him to make a habit of getting yellow cards. It was a silly little niggly one as well. I just hope he doesn't do that. But I can see that he's got something about him that I think we can work with. So I'm not going to say I'm excited, but I'm quite happy that he's back. I want to talk about Gardner Hickman with you. You're his number one fan. I actually, when he took that free kick and the ref did a drop ball and he passed it back to them. Do you remember this moment? Like the refs literally dropped the ball.
What, when we lost possession from an uncontested drop ball?
Yeah. I thought, I bet Mark is having an aneurysm right now.
I've gone past it. Send him back. He is no one will ever convince me he's not as good as Jake Garrett. And Jake Garrett was showing signs of not being quite ready. He's not as good as Joe Rankin Costello was. John Buckley different players, but will contribute far more. I think they probably got him as a squad player, but he is. I mean, actually, if you go back to Ismail's interview, he brought him in as cover for right wing back. He played him there for 20 minutes and saw he was crap. I think the saving grace here is he's not just ploughing him every single week. Even Ismail, who is his signing, is one that he initiated this rather than one that he's just signed off. Recognises he's not a first choice, let's say.
No, it was a little bit frustrating. I did laugh when I saw that. I mean, we need to talk about his deal and what's happening with that in future pods, so we'll get to that one. But let's talk about the people that came on. So Pratt obviously comes on, and McLaughlin. We know that they were solid.
I think McLaughlin was solid, but I mean, I'm going to commit, Mike. I'm going to say I am excited about O'Riordan. And I go back to the Birmingham game when he made his debut. So he came on, first game for us, in about the 88th minute, I think it was. And he put him at right back, and it was when... Was it under Thomason that he signed? And he'd just been thrown in. And I can't remember why we brought him on, whether we were trying to just defend the lead or whatever it was. But I remember the ball landing at his feet and they were all running at him. And Birmingham's quite a raucous place. And he was calm. He just passed the ball. I've seen pace from him. He's got the mentality is what I'm trying to get at. He's come back in. I know he's given a yellow card away there, but he was once out of position, so he fouled him. I think he was tough against Ollie McBurney, so he's done the tough side of it, the pacey side of it, the mentality side of it. He looks decent on the ball. I like him. I think we might have a very, very good player there. I'm gonna go. We've not much to get excited about. I'm going there. I am excited about Conor O'Riordan. Don't clip that up.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think the thing is with him is his size is going to be big. To excuse the pun. Again, it adds into the frustration. He was available at the start of the season, and we go and send him out on loan. And
yeah,
no, exactly. But yeah, Pratt comes on. McLaughlin, they were solid enough. Ribeiro was solid enough. Baraji was doing Baraji things. I think some people get frustrated with him personally. I quite like how he plays, but I don't want him to go the way of other players previously where I start to get frustrated with the decision making. The two I want to bring up, and one's a positive and one's a negative, are Ohashi and Doherty. So Ohashi again comes on, scuffs a couple of opportunities, obviously goes on to miss his penalty as well. He's just, is it a confidence thing with him, or is it just a case of he's not a goal scorer?
If I hadn't seen as much of him, I'd probably say the latter. I'd say, do you know what? He's a bit of a workhorse, and that's what you get now to him. But I've seen go back to that Derby game, the first game he was there. That's quality. I think we're playing him wrong. I think we're just like we did with Gueye. You've got to play him on the shoulder. We did it in pre-season. This is why I get frustrated. I'm trying not to go on a tangent and a rant. But in pre-season, we had a style of play that was too predictable. But like the Luton goal, we were supposed to be using Ohashi on the shoulder, which he's great at, within the width of the box. Just concentrate on running that way. We'll find you. We did it against Luton last year when we started to transition to this way. We did it in pre-season. There's a couple of goals when we were in Spain that he did it. That's gone out the window, and now he's everywhere but in the box. And he's that knackered from playing in the games, but the amount of games that I think that's the overriding issue. He looks absolutely out on his feet. He almost needs to... Personally, why have you even got him on the bench? I couldn't care less if we're losing the cup. Get Valentin Joseph from the 18s on the bench, playing for me. Stick Ohashi on a plane somewhere and get him on a beach for a week and then get him back. And hopefully he's fit enough to start again against Ipswich and go again. I think he's exhausted, and I think we're asking too much of him, is the short answer.
Okay, and the other one was Doherty. I thought he showed some really good movements. Physically, he looks like he can hack it. He looks like he's got a good mental state. He took his penalty really well, which just shows that he's got a bit of confidence about him. He's someone that I think he could have offered something on the bench, which is strange. I mean, obviously, Dlamini's had his opportunities the last few weeks, and this is the first time we've really seen Doherty, and he's impressed the most of the people I've seen on social media, as well as what we saw with our own eyes.
Yeah, I mean, he's predominantly a winger, usually a left winger. You've got to remember, we signed him a couple of years ago, and he was playing in, I think it was in Northern Irish League, and he'll only been 17, so he's played men's football. That does help. So that's not going to intimidate him. If anything, it's probably not as rough and tumble as I'm not an expert in the Northern Irish League, but I'm going to put it out there. It's probably a bit more rough and tumble than the Championship. He's someone who's played well and high levels at international, under 21, so with Hitchen. So I think he's somebody who will be confident in his own ability, and I like the directness of him. I just think we set the team up wrong. So I apologise for going back to a negative with it. But I think if you're asking too much of Powell, if you'd have played a 4-2-3-1, the back line, fine. Midfield, fine. Then you're asking Powell to be with, and not Henriksen, give him somebody who can actually play off. And you've got Doherty on one side, or even Deneva. I feel sorry for Deneva. I think he's not good enough defensively yet. He's anxious about his defensive play because he's been getting in trouble for it. Play him on the left wing, play Doherty on the right, get some pace going forward, or Dlamini on the right because he's a winger. I just think we'd have seen more from him. I think it's a weird, disjointed forward line, and I'll come on to it. But I think keep that striker central, use the pace, get some pace in the team, and I think you could see a real role for him. I think if you play him where we played him, it's almost like when we had Cogbo there and you're just hoping for a counter-attack. I think it wouldn't work in a full game. Playing him where he should play, I actually would be quite excited because we're lacking pace and directness in the team right now.
Yeah, but the thing is even playing out of position, he showed probably more than a Henriksen would, who isn't obviously an attacking midfielder.
Yeah.
So it adds into that strange decision making that we've seen, and that goes down to the youth sides that we've got. I mean, the under-21s are playing tonight. Garrett's back playing for him, which is really good news, because then we get to see if he's got anything for the first team now. But my frustration coming away from this was, we go to penalties. We miss a couple at the start. And obviously that is, again, frustrating. A lot of people were calling out the mental state of Hashi and Baraji, but, the readiness of our youth is there. We've got a pot of talent that we can go into, and we can get some players. So I came away thinking, we have a very limited amount of money to spend. We could argue that we shouldn't, but that is the case. Yeah. And when you've got a squad that had so many holes in it, we could have plugged these holes with some of these youth players. These youth players were available at the start of the season, and I don't like the way it's taken us so long on an emergency basis for these players to play. And I know that there's things you need to talk about. So ability-wise, are they ready? Tactically, are they aware? Physically, are they ready? Mentally, are they ready? But some of these are older youth players, like Pratt, he's one of the older ones. O'Riordan, he's one of the older ones. They could have come in and done a job, and it came to the fact that I don't feel like they were trusted, and that's not good management. We need to, these players, they should have been just kind of eased into the team here or there, put onto the bench a little bit more, brought them in. I just find it really strange that we're talking about some of our best rated players over the last few weeks have been ones that are the youth players that have been available even at the start of the season.
Yeah, and it does lend quite well into what I've tried to look at. So Ismail's talked around Aitchison not being ready in pre-season. But 6 months has done in the world of good.
But he's one of the young ones, to be fair. He is young.
Adam Owen talked around how you've got to bring, young players into a stable environment, and we debated whether the club is ever a stable environment, etc. And I think what he clarified by that was he was meaning that they're settled in the formation. So I'm going to go now into almost as if a fly on the wall. You're in those tactic meetings. You've got Ismail, you've got Adam Owen. What possibly could they be seeing here? And I came up with the answer. I think they'll genuinely be satisfied with the season so far. And I know that might blow some people's mind, but I think they will. And these are the reasons why I think they will be looking at it. So we've had more of a transition than they wanted. They've admitted that. So they are where they are. But they've now got an established number one. We have debated for a number of years whether our keepers are good enough, who we need to bring in, blah, blah. So there's no debate anymore for me. It's told, get his new deal sorted. That's the issue they've got now. But tactics meeting, Adam Owens looking at it, he's appraising Ismail and what they've done together. They've established a number one. They've got a defence and a defensive system established that is allowing young players to come into it. So when he talks about a stable environment and a way of playing, it doesn't seemingly matter anymore who's stepping into that role. And they're not playing it in the 21s, but it doesn't matter who's coming into that role. They know what they're doing and they look comfortable. So they are doing something really well to set them up. There is a way of playing that they're comfortable with and a system that they're doing really well with. So the issue of covering Carter and Wharton has almost gone. If anything, now you're going, bloody hell, we've almost an embarrassment of riches, which is somewhere we couldn't have dreamed to be at the beginning of the season. You've got Ali Biossa, who's a massive bonus as a right wing back, so much so it's going to cause us an issue because interest is going to come in. But we were worried about Callum Britton because he was one of our outstanding players last year. That issue was, they're different. I'm not saying he's as good. I'm not saying he's better, whatever. But that issue has gone as an issue, really. We've got midfield. You've got Tronstad leaving in the summer, and you might be a bit worried about those things and whatnot. But Montgomery's a potential replacement for him that's coming through that you're not going to have to fork out. I think Baraji's settling in. You can starting to see what you're going with that. You've got the technical ability of Marishta, of Campbell. You've options in there. And then they've brought in Garnetman as a squad player who'll run around a lot. Lovely. I think they will look at it and go, do you know what? The majority of this structure and team and squad is there. There doesn't need to be a massive overhaul anymore. There's now a stable environment to some extent, and that's contributed to the way that the youngsters have come in. And I think what is really noticeable is that the defensive youngsters have come in and settled well. The attacking ones haven't hit the ground running as much. And I think that is because the tactical element going forward is not there. It looks disjointed when we've got Ohashi, Goodjohnson and Cantwell. It's just usually Goodjohnson puts a half chance away. We're not creating bucket loads and it doesn't look free-flowing. It doesn't look quite right. We've tried Henriksen there and you sort of have Ohashi out too far to the left and why is Henriksen over here? And where's Baraji when he did it? It doesn't seem right. So it's no wonder the young players are not just slotting into that. So I think we've got a clear area to hit the ground running in the summer. I know it's January transfer window, and I'm not talking just about me. I'm thinking they'll be looking at it and going, they talk about January not being the best time to work at it. But in the summer, there's a clear area they need to work on. There'll be some natural churn. There'll be Ribeiro, whatever we think of it. There'll be Pickering. There'll be Cardboard. There'll be wages of Tronstad that come together and all of these. And they need to use that on an attacking system and way of playing and individuals. And I genuinely think they'll be sat there going, let's get through this season. We've established the majority of the base of a team. You always get the base right first and you can nick games. And if Goodjohnson had been playing, he'd nick these games. And then we can work on how we create more going forward. I'm more of the, well, let's mix it up front if it's not working. Let's change the tactics around. Don't just plug away when you know it's not working. But to be fair to them, on balance, there's a lot of good work that's been done. I still think Ismail's not the right man, and he's not showing me this style of football. But I think the club itself, I am going to get pelters for this bit, I think you can argue, and they will argue, there is some decent work being done now. It will be undone, though, if they do not tie down Top, for example. And there's still bizarre decisions. Tyjon's playing for the 21s tonight. You've got him on the bench. You're not playing him. I know they're talking around well, I only want committed players. I'd rather Henriksen didn't run 15 kilometres and you play Tyjon, and worst case scenario, we get another 500 grand for him. I'll never understand the logic of not doing things like that. But I've tried to put myself in their shoes, see it from a different lens, and I think they will be satisfied at the very least with the work they've done so far this season. As a fan, I'm concerned that we're not going to have enough. But for them, I think they'll be quite satisfied so far.
Yeah, because they've obviously been given a mandate to save a certain amount of money and so on and so forth and do it this way. I think if we was in a relegation battle the last couple of years or something like that, and the squad was in a really poor state, I could see some positives.
Yeah.
But it's where we've come from to where we are, which is why I have this frustration. I've seen how much money's been coming in. I've seen how many players that we've had that have been really good championship players. Obviously, one that was destined for much bigger things going off to Crystal Palace. But we've had some really good players and we've just let them go for next to nothing. And the ones that have gone for money, we've done nothing with it. So that's where my frustration lies when it comes to the recruitment side. It's not where we are now based on where we are right now. It's based on where we were to where we are now. And last season's finish, we look at that. Yes, okay, we had a pretty decent finish to the season and it could have gone where we was just mid-table and we're talking about something different, but we did actually have a chance to finish in the playoffs. And we've gone from that to this. And we've gone from selling a lot of players from the squad, letting players leave over the last couple of years and just never having anything settled. Everything, it seems like we've just been in a consistent transition. It's really, really frustrating just knowing where we were, where we could have been to where we are now. And that's why we've started to get negative, because we're now seeing some players coming through the youth system once again that we can actually look at and think, do you know what? You can offer something to the squad. But it's taken the emergency of of players being injured and bringing these players in. And that's why we're frustrated again. So the way that we've been emotionally, it's all just come down from frustration. Where we were, where we are now, the money coming in, how things are being run. And then when you're seeing a manager that doesn't seem to necessarily be doing what we want him to do, it again adds even more to it.
Completely agree. And that's why, as a fan, we are incredibly frustrated, because you can't just take this moment in time. We've had a number of years of let's start again. We're starting again, yet again, but we're starting from a disadvantage each time. So when you look at the squad, the only way to improve as a championship team, unless you've got parachute money or you've got, artificially inflated money, is to get a bit of a superstar in your team, sell him, reinvest, and become better as a squad, better as a first team. And the big frustration comes down to this season, we finished 7th. If you had added to that squad, so let's say Britain goes out the door, if that was the kind of thing can happen, you bring Ali Bielsa in, I think you're all right. You take out Coley Woodrow and you bring in Andre Johnson. You take out Emmanuel Dennis, you bring in Marishta. I don't think we're a million miles away from getting in the playoffs. And that's...
No, I mean, the players that we've allowed to go out the door, let's just quickly talk about that. So Dom Hyam, John Buckley, JRC, Dolan, Vyman, Markandale, Bart, Travis, Britton, Harry Leonard. They're the ones that have left that I would say would have been first team squad members. Obviously, there's a few others on top of that. There's some names there that would have improved our squad this year.
Yeah.
And some of the players that we brought in could have actually settled in quite nicely and been given more of an opportunity. Now, I know that we've got squad limitations. You can't register everyone. I 100% get that. And there's some players that I've just listed there that I was quite happy to see go, but I was only happy to see go because I actually thought we could upgrade them. I didn't realise that we were letting them go and then we was just going to go and try and take a risk elsewhere. I look at the squad now, and I look around and I can make positives for most of the squads. But when you're trying to change that much that quick, it's just not going to settle. It's not going to work. Then you change them tactically, and then you add in a manager that's not necessarily experienced in doing it this way. It just doesn't help.
No, and you know, I've looked at the squad, and we mulled over whether to do a are they better than previously, and the problem is it's almost too simple to do. You know, is Tavares?
It would have been a very negative podcast, that one.
Exactly. Is Tavares better than Buckley? No, but yet we're minus £1 million. Is Goodjohnson better than? You know, nobody's going to argue. Is Goodjohnson better than Coley Woodrow? Yes. It's simple. So I just look at the team and I think what could have been. But my frustrations with Ismail, I think the recruitment have and hierarchy in terms of money and whatever they've done, they've messed it up massively. We're not reinvesting enough of the money. Yes, that's all true. But just to finish on Ismail, I think there are some solid foundations there that he's built. But I'm not seeing, after 39 games, I would expect to see, and he's had the whole of this season, we're halfway through, a style of playing. And if he's talked about a high press and thinking, why are we just sitting back and waiting for things to happen and hope we score? There's not enough creativity, and I don't see him doing enough about it. I don't see him change things in game. For me, it's just very much, I know what's going to happen, and I am bored. I watch games, I am bored. And there's the famous Gary Neville quote, is when you're bored of your team, but I am bored. I could have switched yesterday's game on mute, come back 45 minutes later, and I could probably have told you. The score might have been different, but I could probably told you how that game went. And I wanted to see young players. I want to see them. That game was all around, let's see how good they are. But I just think it's clearly not working up front. As a manager, your literal job is to get the best out of what you've got. It isn't working. Don't just keep doing the same thing, admitting well, it's not working. I hope we get somebody else in. Well, you might not. Make more of what you've got for now. And that's why.
And we appreciate the fact that Goodjohnson's a very talented striker and he has lost into injury. We do appreciate that. But then the answer is not Axel Henriksson.
No, it isn't. And he's whatever you think of Makhtar Gueye, and I think Makhtar Gueye was poor, but we were getting a tune out of him. He's not done. And you're choosing not to play him. You're choosing not to play Tyjon. You are choosing to play Axel Henriksson, and it isn't working. I'd actually rather you played Campbell as a false nine and tried something, whatever it is. Don't really care. Play two people behind Ohashi, keep him central, and do that kind of thing. I just think there's other ways to go about it. And the fact that he just makes excuses, you're the one picking the team. You know, you have other individuals. He whinges about Deneva and he's got Ribeiro and Pickering sat on the bench. He whinges about Pickering and then he plays him. There's just some odd stuff that happens. I couldn't tell you a strength of his. So when you start looking at Coyle, you start looking at Eustace, I could tell you Mowbray. And I knew his limitations were he didn't have much of a plan B, tried to play good football, wouldn't play young defenders, but would play young players from other clubs. There was pluses, there was minuses. Steady Eddie, we'd have finished mid-table with him every single season, didn't matter what players you had. Thomason, I saw some of the best football, some of the worst, became too stubborn. If we'd have backed him and we'd have given him the right tools, I think we'd have got in the playoffs. If you weren't doing, you might as well get rid of him because he's going to hand grenade. Eustace will always get the best out of what he's got. And will always want experienced players that he can hang his hat on. Would he get more out of this squad? Yes, he bloody would. Ismail, for me, is just proving that he will get par with them. He'll make you defensively sound, and he's going to struggle with the rest. He's going to need individual quality to get him out of the rest. He clearly can't coach a team to be creative. He's going to need individuals.
No, and a lot of people have been saying, well, about the squad injuries, and it's like every manager has to deal with it. You know, yes, I do believe that we have probably more injuries than anyone else, but I only watch Rovers anyway, and I don't watch other teams. And at the end of the day, I could watch their teams and feel the same way. Every team probably feels like that. And if you look at some of the players we have lost to injury, yes, okay, there've been some pretty big, important players, Goodjohnson being the main one. Yeah. But that comes down to the management side of things. You know, what is your plan B? Even if tactically you're not going to change anything, what is your depth chart? And when you've got, again, going back to it, an under-21s that has been as successful as ours, there should have been a striker that was ready just to slot in and just say, do you know what, this is your opportunity. And whether they're ready or not, they're probably going to be more ready than sticking in a midfielder that's probably more of a defensive midfielder from what I've seen of him. You know, or stick a winger up top, someone like that, someone that has a little bit more of an attacking now. So, and that's where I found myself getting a bit annoyed. And the Tyjon thing, whether he's ready or not, if you believe he's got this much talent and he really believes he should be playing and you've got an opportunity to play him, just give him some minutes. You don't know. He could have come on and turned into the next Lionel Messi. We don't know. And whether they're saying, in training, he didn't look ready. And we don't see behind the scenes. We don't know. You know, as from a coach's point of view, I'm not a professional coach. I don't know what to look at from if I was at a professional level. But I can tell you, as we saw with Doherty and others, they can come on and if they can do a job, just give them an opportunity.
At the evening with Valérien, spoke very well on Thursday. What was very, very clear, Mike, is he's making decisions about who plays on who's hitting the numbers that they want for that position. That it's about physical output. Can you do enough high-intensity sprints? Can you run enough? That is their main criteria for picking his team. And that's not the way you pick a football team. That's why you've got Hammer.
No, I think this is where football started to bore me.
And that's why Axel Henriksen is running 15 kilometres. That's why Dion Deniva's playing and not Ribeiro there or Pickering. That's why Jake Beaty will not be playing, because they're not hitting the numbers they've set as a criteria for those players. And Makhtar Gueye won't hit those numbers, but use him effectively if you're going to keep him. And I haven't forced them to keep him. They haven't bought Makhtar Gueye, but they made a conscious decision to keep him and not Harry Leonard, and then have never used him. So he's talked, Andy, recently about, he's not been doing it in training. But he's probably incredibly peed off because he's sat looking at people on the pitch who are midfielders or other people not doing it. And you're talking about, Hash is knackered, but you're never bringing Gueye on. Now, all right, he was offside all the bloody time. I know all that, and whether he's good enough or not. But they made the decision to keep him in the summer when they had an alternative. Probably for a similar roundabout and money we're talking about. Well, then don't. If you're not going to use him, or Tyjon, and he talked about how, we thought he was going to sign a contract in the summer. Now he's not. Well, get more money for him. Or actually, if he sees a genuine pathway and sees himself playing and starts playing well, in the back of his mind, he might be thinking, I don't want to give this up here. It might work the other way. And
that comes down to the man management side and where I believe we've failed. And this is where we've needed help from that front, because the stats thing really frustrates me. And like I say, it's what bores me about football is it's all stat driven. It's all about the athleticism. And I called for more athleticism into this team. I wanted us to be bigger and stronger, but I didn't want us to sacrifice the technical side, because you need the technical side. The whole point is getting the round thing in the goal. That's football. And if you can't get the ball into certain dangerous areas and you can't hit the target, well, you're not going to do it and you're not going to win games. So it is extremely annoying to watch. And the Tyjon thing for me, I would love to know what the reasons actually are as to why he's not been given an opportunity at all. If they're saying he's not physically ready and his stats aren't ready, fine. But this lad obviously believes that he should be ready. So give him a chance. And if he fails, then you just say, look, we told you he wasn't ready. But we've had opportunities to give these players opportunities and we haven't taken them.
And don't want to go too negative, but what I am just going to start to put out in the ether is Rudy Gested's been in his role a number of years now. 2 years, is it? He's been in that role. He said previously it's mistakes of previous regimes. 2 words, Ballas Toth. 2 more words, 18 months.
It is a worry. And apparently he's getting some interest according to his agent. And his agent's obviously going to want him to move so he gets his money. So, yeah, it's again, we're talking interesting times. So before we finish the pod, obviously we've got Ipswich, feels like again this weekend. This is going to be a tough one away, isn't it?
Yeah. Second in the league home form-wise. Only lost one game, only drawn 4, won 8. Goal difference plus 30, only conceded 11 goals in 13. We are scoring a grand total of something there between nothing and none. We scored 11 goals away from home in 12 games. There you go. There's the stats for it. The eye test. I know we're doing well against teams like this, but I expect another tough game without Andre Johnson or him changing something drastically. I can't see us scoring. I think they will score. I think they've got too many options not to break us down at some point. Don't want to predict a loss, so I'll not make a prediction.
Well, this has Rovers winning 1-0 all over it, doesn't it? Similar to
winner.
Exactly. I think we've talked about everything we really need to talk about this week in regards to the football side. I think the signings wise, there's certain players we've been linked to, but obviously we don't know. Cashin's coming on loan. There's no news on Gardner Hickman's deal going permanent or anything like that, because there was rumours that potentially he was going to try and get that done. Obviously, if it was up to you, we'd just send him back with a thank you, but no thanks. Pape Gueye is meant to be on his way to China. They want to, apparently Shanghai want to build their championship winning team around him. Somehow we're going to make a profit. I think that's basically it regarding signings. I haven't seen any solid rumours or anything like that.
No, I mean, Ismail said, hadn't he, that we're no longer looking for a right-wing back, which again leads me to think that's where he sees Miller, which is the only position he can do any job for me, really. Unless they are being a brand new recruitment team and they are forward thinking and planning just in case Alabiosu goes, because we're being linked with a lot of right backs. Yeah, he's saying we don't want one. So maybe they're sounding them out just in case. He's talked about we need at least one striker, if not two. He was asked, long last thing, he was asked in the evening with Ismail, why are we changing tact? Why are we all of a sudden open to loans and things? And he said, January is a very different window. It's about short term. It's about getting people in that you don't have a pre-season to work with them, get them in, and they have to be ready to hit the ground running. Fair enough. Great explanation. Thank you. Happy with that. Doesn't fit the longer term bill is what he was saying, but that's not what it's about right now. We need to fill gaps that we've clearly got. And he clearly knows. Good, because if he'd have said we weren't, I'd have been really worried. We are lacking up front. It's becoming urgent. So, yes, I agree. It is.
Well, hopefully we'll get someone in pretty soon, because games are going to start coming thick and fast again. And like you say, some players need a rest. Hopefully we've got some players coming back from injury. I know that there's obviously more injured players. But, yeah, it's going to be an interesting time. We're nearly halfway through the window. We're coming up to halfway through the window. We've only seen Cashin in. We need to see some people through the door now.
Quickly.
Exactly.
I suspect it will be a deadline day. Check your phone in the morning job once again, though.
I hope we get it done quick, because then we'll have something better to talk about next week. So, Mark, I think we'll leave it there. I think I'm not feeling as negative this week as last week, because I got a lot off my chest last week.
Yeah.
I'm still not quite there. I'm not going to be on the positive route, but I feel like we've got a lot off our chest the last couple of podcasts.
Yeah. Listen, we want Blackburn Rovers to win every single game. That is all we want. And if that's with Ismail, if that's with Lewis Miller setting up Axel Henriksen after an amazing run and Gardner Hickman smashes a volley in from 40 yards, great. I will be the first to sit here and go, absolutely tremendous. We were all wrong. But we're fans, we're passionate. We've won 1 in 11. We're going to not be on top of the world right now. We're going to be concerned because we're halfway through a window and there's clear gaps. It'd be unnatural if we weren't feeling a little bit unnerved. But I feel better. I feel like we've got stuff off. I think we've been able to explain where we are with things, that we're not just blindly going, get the manager out. It's only his fault. A new manager coming in will fix everything. None of those things are true. What we're saying is, I don't think Ismail is the best we can possibly do. But no, he's not been given a great hand either. The two things can coexist.
Exactly. Well, put your comments down below. What do you think of the week that's gone past? What do you think of the manager? What do you think of where we need to go signings-wise? What do you think is important? And obviously, Cashin, what did you think of his debut? But put all those comments down below. But Mark, thanks for joining me this week.
No, great stuff. And we've had a couple of people asking what would we have as our starting 11. I think we'll do it after the window closes, what we would have as our starting 11 formation team. We'll do it all then, because right now, I think we're all, it's a bit of a muchness at the minute. But tell us yours, and we'll go with it. If anyone's any scouting tips for the scouting department, let us know. If they're championship ready, young English striker, League One's fine as well, let us know.
Exactly. I think there's one that's doing quite well there at the moment, but I'm not sure he would want to come to us. But that's another conversation for another day. But anyway, have a great week, everyone, and we'll see you next time.